world comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Everyone, and welcome to Raw Recovery, a Trudging Together podcast. My name is Dion, and I am your host for Raw Recovery. And we're getting back at it. I have simplified a lot of things so that we can bring back some more podcasting. And you could be expecting 3 to 4 podcasts a month from us now, from speakers from around the country, maybe even around the world if I feel like it. But today I have, I've been listening to this guy for a little while. I met him in meetings, and when it comes to male speakers, I'm a little more particular. Sorry, guys, but I am. I'm a little more particular because they don't share their feelings. They just give some bland story, so much, and we need that deep rooted. We need it, right? So I have found another guy that's kind of like me, who's not scared to show his emotions. There goes my dog. And he's also, we're kind of friends. It depends on what you call friendship. I don't know, but I tell you this: we both got the same intentions. That's what I was looking for. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dion.
Good to have you.
Good to be here. Dion, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, brother. Yeah, I'm proud to call you a friend, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
Trudging Together. Love that song. She has a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Nyah will really appreciate that. Yeah, very proud of her. She's a beautiful soul. Beautiful soul. So yeah. I heard this crazy rumor that you might have a problem with alcohol.
I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, and very humbling to be here. I've shared my story a few times in person, but I haven't done this online. And so this is really cool. I love the podcast format. Like Dion said, I've ran across him a few times in COVID, and he's always steady Eddie, pretty much at all the meetings. Every time I was logging on, he was spitting the truth, carrying the message. So grateful to be here. And my sobriety date is 8/12/2012. And my home group is Denver Nooner through the Dragon's Den. I've been logging on to that bad boy. I'll talk a little more about that. And today I'm kind of here to talk about powerless and unmanageability and God shots.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you already know the floor is yours. This podcast, we love the speaker to tell their story, and we don't interfere with it. And it always turns out great. So I'm going to hand over the reins and give up the show over to you. So you can start anywhere you want, Rob.
Thank you, Dion. Yep. Try to keep it raw. So you like a lot of folks, you're growing up and you're in your head and something seems a little different, like racing thoughts, kind of is tough to be around other people, or at least for me. And so, I grabbed, I think it was wild turkey. We grabbed a bottle when I was like 12, a couple of friends, they took a couple shots and they were toast, and some of them puking and stuff, and they were done. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. When we ran around the neighborhood, we were banging our heads on poles, jumping off fences,
walking over cars.
Yeah, it was like, this is it, and like it was that power I've been looking for.
So and did you have many friends growing up? Did you kind of feel different? Because it seems like there was a change there when that alcohol hit your tongue.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had my close group, and I considered them brothers. And I, to this day, we're told to kind of change our playground and play things, and I get that, and I have done that in a lot of ways, but I still have a lot of my good friends from childhood, and
There's
they stuck
nothing wrong
around.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've really, they've taken a turn for, the changes that I've made, and
Look at
they've been
that.
so supportive. For a lot of my milestones, I've had one of my good friends sitting in the room with me. He'll
Yeah.
come and just be a supporter, and it's been
What a great
amazing.
story. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, they've been there. They've seen the good and the bad, and I hate to say that, I've punched majority of them in the face, blacked out drunk, and they they knew that side of me, and they knew that,
Yeah.
that switch, and I was a blackout drinker, and that's
Yeah.
that just kind of continued. All of a sudden, I had this thing that I could do that took away that mask, and
Yeah.
that anxiety, and I could talk to girls, and I could,
Yep.
I had an identity, and that kind of carried on. I continued drinking, and other outside problems, and um, kind of arrived to college, went to CU Boulder, and definitely had some partying under my belt, and so I was just ready to keep it going, and
Yep.
Party fucking Rob was my nickname at CU Boulder. I went there undeclared, and my plan was just to party.
Yeah.
And drinking was just a part of everything that you did and you do. And at the time, I was also around 18. I was diagnosed bipolar.
Okay.
I think a lot of those things were, some disappointments in myself, some identity issues that it was just like, who am I?
Yeah.
Because it was just I was fighting some heavy drugs
Yeah.
that they were giving me, and drinking a lot, so that meant a lot of puking.
Oh, yeah. That combination is dangerous, actually.
Yeah, not great. I have a lot of vivid memories. We'd go to the mountains and party. If folks had a place, which was kind of fun, and I'd be on the way home just puking out the window of the car because
Oh,
I
man.
was mixing lithium and
Oh,
booze.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like, and I just thought that was par for the
Normal.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and uh, I think, looking back, hindsight's 2020. I think a lot of it was behavioral, and this program's given me a lot of a lot of tools to use to
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
change that thinking. And but really, it's easy to hate yourself when you drink every day,
Yeah.
and you
But,
blot it
and
out.
we're taught that too. Alcoholics
Hmm.
are bad kids. Stay away from them homeless people. They'll stab you. Alcoholics and the stigma. I mean, yeah, the stigma's getting a little better now. When we were growing up, it was still there.
And
You
you
know.
were the bad kid, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was kind of the kid on the fringe, like. And like a lot of people, I think that you live a double life, and it talks about that in the book. And
Yeah.
I kept my grades up, and that's about all I could really do. Not when I got to college. I was on the bad list at college,
Okay.
not the good list, and so I definitely barely
You
hung on there,
were
but
on the wrong dean list.
the wrong dean's list. Yeah, we got a lot of letters, and
Yeah.
and so there were some times that there were definitely some signals, maybe from a higher power, that were just showing me that this really isn't doing a lot for me. I had some minor in possession tickets,
Okay.
just drinking in public, things like that, that eventually got me to go home.
Yeah.
And so I spent a semester at home, and at
Okay.
that point, I think I recall that I was court ordered to attend an, and so I
Okay.
went,
Yeah.
and it was it was a bunch of old guys sitting in a circle
Yeah.
and talking about shit I didn't understand, and
Yep.
you know talking about random things I didn't really care about. So I went out drinking after that, but at
Sure.
least, I knew I was there. And I went and I signed my papers and whatever.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't for me. I wasn't ready. I
You weren't
definitely
ready
wasn't
yet.
ready.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, so
Do you mind if I ask just a quick question
of course.
before we start getting into your adulthood here? How were your parents? Were they drinkers at all, or how many brothers? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because it's my sister was like the golden child, love her to death,
Okay.
wonderful soul.
The hero.
But and I have a much older sister who is over 20 years older than me, so she had moved out, but
Wow.
really loved
Okay.
me, but lived in Minnesota. And my sister was 6 years older, so she kind of matriculated through high school, and I was that kid going to school, and it was like, oh, you're Lindsay's brother. I'm like, yeah, I got nothing for you.
Yeah.
And she was like, she started the golf team and won state and, all this,
Yep.
was on the CU ski team and,
Yep.
awesome stuff. But like, to her, she brought me up to Boulder, we'd party. And I was like, her friends thought it was awesome because I was like 14 or something. And
Yeah.
I thought like, that's what you do. And they had lives. They had like other things going on. It was just like,
Yeah.
they'd party. Some of them probably, partied more than they needed to, but she just normal drinker.
Yeah.
My dad, there's a lot to my dad that he's, people would describe as a functional alcoholic.
Okay.
So I grew up around that, and my mom never really, she'll have a glass of wine. And so it's that's been interesting,
Okay.
kind of going through that. And so it kind of relates in both ways that I was definitely that kid that when there were drinks left out around a party, I was picking them up and drinking them, and I
Yep.
liked the effect. So I probably drank prior to, when I described, but
Yeah.
it was pretty normal, and
Sure.
that's just what he did. And so right around 23 years old, I had just gotten out of a relationship pretty poorly, and it didn't go well. A lot of it was based on my drinking, and I moved out and I went to Germany with my dad that summer. He was on a business trip,
Okay.
and yeah, basically I sat down and I just kind of dumped. It wasn't an amends. It was just like, what the fuck did you do to me, kind of thing. Not fair. Just kind of blindsided the man.
Yeah.
We're drinking on this trip, and he sat down and he said, Rob, I'm an alcoholic. Your grandfather died of this disease. He died of alcoholism, bloated on a table. And I know that was a lot for my dad. And basically it was like, you got to figure this out. And that was kind of a tough, I don't know, not really awakening, but just kind of like, well, shit, like that's it, huh?
Yeah.
And I knew kind of in the back of my head, like that wasn't enough.
Sure.
That wasn't enough of an answer, but it was the best that he. And so I had a couple more years, but I did get sober fairly early. I was fairly young considering. So about 3 years of just trying to do this on my own. Trying outside issues, pairing that, trying trying to be the DD. And you kind of just find yourself back on that merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And just deep in that depravity, and it was like, oh, I did it again. And I was just those incomprehensible things that Jekyll and Hyde, it describes that. Like I feel like I'm a gentle person generally, and then I'd get drunk and I would just get mad, just angry, and I'd black out. And
how was your attitude during those 3 years that you were staying sober, right?
Mm-hmm.
And good on you. But you weren't in any recovery. Did your attitude change at all, or were you just an asshole like I would have been? I would have been.
Man, just an asshole. And really, like I was starting my relationship with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. Put her through the ringer, and it was ups and downs because I would stop for a couple months and then I'd pick up a drink, like like
Yeah.
cider would come out or something. I'd be like, oh, I gotta try that. That sounds like it's not gonna hurt me. Like
What's that?
what's
Mike's
cider?
Hard Lemonade.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, this literally, like she was out of town and it was New Year's Eve and
Okay.
went out, and I'm like, well, it's a new year. Let's kick it off. And that night I'm standing over this guy I've known for years with a grill over, one of those charcoal grills over my head. I'm about to hit him on the head with this thing. And there's like, it's no sense. No sense.
Yeah.
I almost stabbed one of my good friends. We got into a pretty good altercation over something really trivial, and it's been a long road just trying to make amends with him. And so yeah, just like things.
That's the thing about drinking, Yeah, if we blacked out and went to the soup kitchen and helped out, it'd be different, but we don't. We become dangerous people. We get in 7,000-pound cars, go driving around like, oh, this is normal. Trying to stab our friends, beating people up with grit. Yeah, it's not normal behavior.
But I thought that was a rite of passage. I thought getting arrested, blacking out, just chaos in your life was just like, that's how it rolls. Those were just a lot of the people that I ran with, and some that I don't see anymore.
And even your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was just normal. I thought that was just absolutely normal behavior.
Yep.
It's not. And they were kind of like little vacations, like I was in grad school and I would try to, I'd like do preemptive texts, I'd call them. So I'd text my mom like, love you, I'll see you Monday. And I'd literally just check out for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Just like, don't talk to me, don't look for me.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation for the weekend,
Dangerous.
Yeah. So it never worked out very well. I can't say it did me a lot of favors. And so it was working till it didn't. And I think it was around college that kind of shifted. And I really, my drinking, I turned into that person that I hated being, but it was a way to just shut it off. Like, shut my brain off.
Sometimes because even though it's not physical pain, it's emotional pain, your whole body hurts. And it's so hard to describe, but it doesn't feel much different than detoxing from alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
And those emotions can really tie us up, especially anger with men. I know I had a big anger problem, and when I drank, it came out.
Yeah, the world's out to get you, and you judge other people's outsides, how you feel inside, and someone looks at you wrong. And I'm not a big guy, and I would take on the world like this man, and my friends would have to back me up all the time, and they were sick of it, it was just like that guy's looking at me
what?
wrong.
There's nothing better than a friend who will have your back, even though you're wrong, but you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna hear about it.
Oh yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
I certainly did. And so I guess, I stumbled a few times getting there, and it was it came to a time. I was 26. I was living with my girlfriend, not my wife, that we were living in a condo, and we got into it, and it was, I don't even know what I was mad about. Basically, she's upset, and I broke a door, and I see her, cowered in the corner, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to get out of here. It's not about her. It's like the cops are coming. I got to go. And so, I went downtown one night, 2 nights. I think I took my bike there, which is interesting.
Okay.
So, thankfully I never, I drank and drove a lot, and thankfully, no accidents, and that's a yet, because I stay in the yet, because that stuff can still happen if I wanted it to, but thankfully nothing happened. But I went downtown, and I stayed at a buddy's, and I woke up in a pool of my own vomit, just covered in bruises from the night before, and it was like, I don't know what happened. No idea.
Died that night.
easy the asphyxiation. That was probably, that was going to be it. And it hadn't, that had happened many times before, but I got up, kind of packed my stuff and rode my bike back. And basically, my girlfriend was like, "That's it, like that's it. What are you gonna do? Like I'm leaving." And she was about to go visit family, and so and I was very pissed. Her dad has his own stuff, and he's been through it. And so she was like, "Have you tried AA?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Didn't work.
What about it? And then she's like, and I'm like, "Yeah, that worked really great for your dad, huh?" It's just like that. You really, when you're in that space, and I can see people doing that when they're dry too. Like it's like you're between, you can't drink and you can't stay sober. What do you do?
It's a very confusing and very lonely place.
Yeah. And I remember that. And that's when, you start digging, like even at step 0, like the gift of desperation, you start kind of digging deep. And you start really like considering who you are and what that's going to take. And so I went to a meeting downtown on like Sherman or something. And, it was another circle situation. I was like, God damn it, here we go. And then a guy pulled me aside after, and he said, there's some young people meetings down, at DU. Like, why don't you check that out?
DU's great for young people meetings.
Yeah. And it was Denver Young People at the time. Amazing groups. Went there twice a week. Started going there, and it was just great to see young people doing this and happy, and like
people like you.
Right. And I still hated it. Don't get me wrong. Like I hated it to my core. And but I just kept going because I had nothing else to do, nowhere to go.
You were going to lose everything if you didn't.
Yeah. So you go there and you kind of, you smoke some cigarettes and you talk to people and you try to figure out what the hell you're doing. Yeah. And so
around.
But the social part, like the activities afterwards, the fellowship, I was just like mortified because I'm like, how do you interact and
sober?
How do you do this? Like, I don't want to talk to you people. I don't even know you people. And I don't even think I like most of you people. But, it turns out that I did. And it did help. Like I went to another group that was called Too Young to Die that had just started at that time. And I walked in and I saw a guy that I used to run with that for sure, those guys that's like, he should be dead or in jail. Like, there's no reason he's with people. There's no way
that guy's going to get sober.
No way. Like, haven't talked to him for years, just figured he's dead. And so, I sat by him and I knew at that point, like, I need to probably find a sponsor.
But it sounded like God answered your question.
So I think that was God's shot.
I don't know any of you guys. Yeah, you do.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it was like like you belong here. Like this is a good place for you.
That's a miracle.
And it was a miracle. And genuinely he did so much. And I owe a lot to him. Just expanded my mind and my spirituality. And so, he took me under his wing. I didn't want a lot of the things that this guy had. He still lived with his mom. He was like in his 30s. Or almost, but like he had sobriety down, and he knew this shit back and forth, every part of it. And so we would just hop in his car, and we didn't have much going on. So like it was a Saturday, we'd just hit meetings. And I remember like when we got in the car, and he's like, I can feel this, the world around me, and I feel like I can talk to animals, and I'm like, you are not sober. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And he's like, this fourth dimension, and like, I'm connected. And this man flatlined on heroin twice up to this point.
Wow.
Like, and he had quite an experience, and I can't really speak to his story, but he he definitely he earned his seat for sure. And
yeah, he's one of those guys. If he made it, I can make it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And so we saw.
We need people like that. Love it.
Right. No, he pushed me, to be honest, and that was the part.
Yeah.
Sitting with another man, it was emotional, and he lived in Parker, which is where I live now, and I was in Denver, and he'd be like, "You want this? You drive your ass to my house every week. We're gonna read this book." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fucking serious?" And
you did it for
but
alcohol. You could, he's gonna pull that line. You know he is.
It was great. Yeah. Like, I mean, he walked me through it. We read it, and he knew. He was a big book thumper, and
love it.
But he was like, he'd kind of just keep pushing, like, you feel that way, because you're insecure. You want people to like you. You do things to people please, and things that, and not a lot of that came out of my inventory, but just the fact, like, I think good sponsorship is just something that just has to keep being held high as it is in the program. It's just it's so important. Yeah, and accountability. He was always there. There was a night in Fort Collins. I was super uncomfortable. I was visiting some old friends. I drove home. He came right to my door. Not a lot of guys would do that. I'm not saying you should, but he came over and he sat with me and we meditated. And he just got me out of that space that it was just like, just total. I was just empty. Like I was a shell of a person.
Yep.
And he showed me that love, that unconditional love.
Yep, that we all need. And it's such a weird experience, going through unconditional love for the first time in AA, especially from another man. Because, at that point we're like, well, what is it that you want? And to find out that they don't want anything but to help you is relieving. It is. Finally I had another person in front of me that I didn't have to say, well, I'm lonely because of da 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 da. I just told them I'm very lonely, and they understood.
They understand.
That's what got me.
It's crazy. It is crazy to speak your truth in this program, and for people not to leave or to feel uncomfortable. It's understood. And it's that old adage, like, you're telling you're doing your inventory and you're like, I had relations with the chicken, and he's like, how many? Like, it's like, it's like, it's just,
well, 2. Well, I did 4, so I got you beat.
All right, moving on. I'm not saying that happened. It's just,
but and for us, that's not. It may sound like an outlandish example, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just like, whatever, man. That's it. So and so I think that it's that powerless and unmanageability that like got me there, and the doing step 1 perfectly kind of like was the key to finally being done. But I do remember being in the car with him, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, so what about smoking weed for like a week? For a good month of the beginning, I was smoking pot. So I had to reset so July was really when I started, but like I had to reset to August because he was like, and this was just his opinion. He just said, you're not connected.
Absolutely.
You're not connected spiritually. And I just don't think that's recovery. I don't think that's sober. And some people disagree. But he was like, if we're going to continue working, you got to be sober.
But this was for you. Yeah. That's what's beautiful about recovery is everybody has their own path.
Yeah.
And everybody has a right to their own path.
For sure. When I went to meetings, I try to ask other people, and they're like, I don't know, man. Just keep the plug in the jug. Like, I'm not going to talk to you about that.
They're going to talk to you about it. They're going to be like, we're here for alcohol.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm high right now. And they're like, okay.
Then
good you're here.
Yeah. No.
Glad you're here. Keep coming back.
I don't think I can do that.
So yeah, I mean, that was kind of like God shot one for sure. Like, I think, just waking up from that night was, three. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. So got you. And yeah, and so like, in recovery, I kept trying to enlarge my fellowship and spirituality. And so, like I went on a mountain biking trip with a guy that I just kind of met, and I knew he was into mountain biking. And we were up in kind of Avon, like out in the woods, and huge hailstorm came down, and we had to seek shelter. And there happened to be this weird shelter up there, like hut. So we sought refuge in there, and it was just us. And I just thought, like, at that point, it was like, I have to just do recovery things with recovery people, and I have to stay insulated. And like,
okay,
as the world has it, some other travelers came by with a bottle of whiskey and joined our party. And I just think that was like, it's kind of like the Eskimo that's in the book that's just trying to, stay away from it. And it's everywhere. And I think, that was just another test and another just instance that it was just kind of funny, like, my higher power can be kind of funny sometimes. And just like, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do with this? And we made friends. And we didn't drink.
Dry.
Yeah. And we stayed dry, literally, figuratively, mentally, spiritually. I mean, kept it cool. And so that was, kind of an experience for me that really kind of solidified what I was doing. And fast forward a bit, I drove to the hospital to visit my former sponsor, who was in the hospital from taking some HGB, and so he kind of fell off, and that was really a gut punch, because he had been there every step.
What is that?
So it's the drug that's considered date rape. He was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
And apparently they take that, and I mean, this is kind of like, because I think it's just like maybe a cop out, but they take it for like growth or whatever. But he just took a bunch and then was passed out on the ground, and his mom found him and took him to the hospital.
Okay.
But he was out, and that was an interesting period, that it was like, this guy that I counted on was, it was like the student becomes a teacher kind of thing. And he was finding his own path. And so people suggested I start working with someone else, and it just happened to be that I had Atticus Finch right next door. This dude was this guy in recovery for as long as I was alive, and I saw him at a meeting, and then I realized he was my neighbor. And it was just like, he just plopped in my life. So I just walk over to his house and we just rap, and like, he took me through the steps again. He was a big 12 and 12 guy, so we did 12 and 12.
Love the 12 by 12.
And it was solid, and I still talk to him, and he's a wonderful dude.
Is he still your neighbor?
No, I moved, but
that's right, you moved to Parker.
Yeah, but he's still there, and we're very much in touch. Love him to death. And so, it was a blessing that it was just like, God's looking out for me again. And I think at that point I started picking up sponsees, and I didn't think I was ready for that. Like, you have that feeling. Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to help this person. And I never thought I could do it like my former sponsor did. I never thought that could happen, and I've done my best, but I've had a couple guys.
When we first get into the program, we can't wait to get the 12th step. Then we go through the steps to realize not only is there a lot of work, but these people depend on us. And we get sure it's a legitimate fear. Why? Because we've never been there before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it continues to say in the book, if you have courage, if you have the right answers, you can help hundreds and thousands of people.
And a lot of guys, they went out pretty early on when I was first starting. I was that guy that was like, "Do you want to die? You want to
Yeah.
die, motherfucker?" And it wasn't working very well. So
So
like
you know what? But wait a minute, though. But what we're doing sometimes, what happened to you? You had to go to court, and the seed was planted. That's when the seed was planted. Then the psychic change happened to you, and I think the same thing happened to you that happened to me. I saw my wife. I looked in her eyes, and I knew I was the problem.
hmm
So I
hmm
had to quit.
I bet
So
you
I
thought
got
she was the problem for a long
sober.
time.
Yeah. So I got sober for my family, but I did recovery for me. You have to do,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
think you can get sober for any darn reason you want to.
yeah. And
Um,
that's a beautiful statement. But once you really start doing it for yourself, and once you really
it
see
does.
that,
It changes everything.
but before that, it was like, whatever relationship it was like, sorry, man, that's or woman or that's who I am. Like that's how I roll.
Yeah.
If you're not with that, that's too bad. I'm just gonna keep on doing this
I used
because
to, I used to tell people that I was dating, I'm like, I'm an alcoholic. I know it. If you try and change me, I won't see anyone.
hmm
That's, you know, talk about narcissistic, man.
but you put that over everything else. And then we
Yeah,
learn in this program, you got to put, your recovery over everything else, and then things tend
absolutely.
to work out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thankfully I've got 4 guys that are still sober and
Huh.
just solid guys that I can really depend on. But a lot of that vulnerability came out in not only working with my own sponsors, but at this point now, like sitting down with another man and hearing their story, like I
Yeah.
can't help but tear up. Like
Yeah.
it's harrowing. Like some, just to get to that place too. Like we're very lucky, to get
Yeah.
to that, even to get to the inventory and have that, you know,
To have the
have that
chance.
moment
Yeah.
hmm with God and with another man. And my sponsor was old school in the beginning. Like we held hands, and I was like,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? What
Right.
is that? And like he'd take me, to like an overlook, and he's like, we're gonna meditate, and I'm like, are you gonna kill me? Are you gonna touch me? What's
Yeah.
happening? And like it was, but
As,
he and
as men, that's what we're taught.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are
you're on
taught you
defense.
do not share your emotions or you're a weak fuck.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the opposite's the truth. The opposite's the truth.
But I think that's why we dive into the bottle,
Yeah.
because like you just
Yeah.
can't face it and you can't deal with your emotions.
Yeah.
So you
Gotta
just
hide it somewhere.
what do you do instead? Just get drunk and mad.
Yeah.
That's
Shove
what
it
we
down.
learned.
Just shove it. Just shove it down. Just put it under the rug until I get drunk, and then it's all gonna come out. You
I'm
know.
about 11 years. I'm a little over 11 years in now, and I'm
Woo!
still learning a lot about myself. Though, like
You,
that's the
yeah.
trip.
I've been reading the big book since 1989,
Damn.
and I still learn new things every time I go through it. Every
But
time I
that's
go
what.
through it. That's it. But the book doesn't
Yeah,
change. I do.
yeah, yeah. That's beautiful. And
That's
that's your attraction. That's what, like
yeah,
immediately I'm drawn to this man. I'm like, this dude knows what's up. Like, and he's still on that path. Like you can kind of like, you can tell, and I don't want to get from that judgmental place, but like, it's easy to kind of check out too. Like when you get to a certain point, you're just kind of like
it is.
rattling off and it's just like, all right, third step. This is the third step. Good meeting.
Yeah.
Toodaloo.
It usually happens around 7, 8, 9. And people, what happened is people, that's about the spot when people tend to think, I don't need AA. And they'll skip a
hmm
meeting. And I went through this. I had 12 years of sobriety. And I thought it was okay to skip a meeting. Well, it was a lot easier to skip that next meeting. Then
hmm
I wasn't going to meetings. And
hmm
it it didn't, it took 2 years, but I started reverting and I relapsed emotionally way before I relapsed physically.
hmm And that's what, we have to hear that. And that I'm not pretending like I have never done that or I'm not, or I've, and really virtual meetings have kind of saved my life in a lot of ways because, last year our son at 4 months old, he was trached, and we were in the hospital for 2
Oh,
months, and
yeah.
I was there 24/7,
Yeah.
and so, that's where I started finding virtual meetings, and I logged into, the York Street, candlelight.
Yeah.
Those people were there every night, 6 nights a week,
Yeah.
and, I just all of a sudden, it was like I'm not alone again, like but it was a scary place, like, I was supposed to be there for my son, and I that's all I was trying to do, but I was kinda losing my
Yeah.
shit.
Right. And that's part of recovery for us, because for me, I was an absentee father. So, when it comes to my kids, they're top priority, but that's part of my recovery. But everybody knows 3 to 4, you don't bug dad,
Mhm.
right? Heck, I was even at my son's birthday party a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I gotta go to my meeting, and everybody, I mean, like my ex-wife and everybody's there, like, bye, you know, go
Yeah,
ahead, please. So,
yeah, but I think, virtual meetings are a new horizon, this
I agree.
podcast, it's a whole different ballgame, and I'm really trying to wrap my arms around it because, it's there, it's always there, and, I
Mhm.
work virtually, so I'm really comfortable in that
I
environment.
wouldn't have met you.
Uh, yeah, exactly, that's
Yeah,
it, and it's wild, and so I think just the action part is what I'm working on, and I that is something that I'm still exploring, that kind of like the wonder years. Not
yeah,
like you hear the wonder years, you wonder if anybody else is working a program. At this point, it's like the wonder years, like I wonder what the hell the rest of this time's gonna look like, because
yeah,
that obsession of the mind changes to this time will be different. That's what your head's starting to
yeah,
tell you
yeah.
if you start drifting. And that's what I heard from my old sponsor. He's sitting there. I didn't get honest with myself,
Mhm.
and I still wonder what that means sometimes, and I think it's just at your core that like you slip away. He wasn't going to meetings, and that's what neither here nor there. But I hear it, and it's sort of terrifying sometimes. But
Mhm.
like if you can just spend some time with Dion, like things get better.
Yeah,
And I hate to say it, like the isolation, that's exactly where this disease wants you to be. And,
it
and I,
absolutely it does.
so I think that some people may think that virtual meetings have that kind of heart to it, but I saw isolation in the hospital recently. That my dad just had a triple bypass.
Okay.
He wasn't honest with the docs, and he was going through delirium tremens for
Yeah,
3 days.
yeah,
And I'm sitting there, he's sweating, and he's losing his shit. He's having like he's delirious at night. He
yeah,
sees apparitions,
yeah,
and he's telling me, I gotta stop, I gotta stop. And I saw him recently with a glass of wine. So it's this is a very, very cunning, baffling, powerful thing that we're going
yeah,
through,
yeah,
and it'll grab you, and it'll take you back as
yeah,
soon as you want it to, as soon as you let it, and that's the hard part.
yeah. Really, it's that intention, but I feel like my intentions were good, but the outcome just never was. Um, and maybe we'll never know why.
But you know what
But
they tell us?
I'm
No,
sorry.
sorry, please finish. Yeah, no, finish that thought. I'm sorry, Dion.
Um, yeah, I was just saying, I don't know that we'll ever know why. I know we're born with this disease, so we've gotten that far. But once you start to add trauma and other things to the mix, I mean, you can get something much different. You can get something very, very dangerous. They say
Yeah,
in chapter 5 that there's some of us who have mental disorders, but you can make it if you're honest with yourself.
and you can seek outside help. I mean, that's there, but
Absolutely.
it's the honesty that's really the key, and the honesty,
Yeah.
openness, willingness. But like the funny thing about that statement too is that what you're saying before, that now I've been told, don't plan for the outcome, plan the action.
Yeah.
And that's changed my thinking in a lot of ways. And even just like I used to drink because it was like, you did this to me, like this
Yeah.
is your fault.
There were always
And
reasons and excuses.
yeah, and I just felt like I was a victim. of
Yeah.
my circumstances. And, I really didn't have it that bad. And honestly, like, that it's described as like an elevator. And, I chose where I got up, and I'm very grateful for that. Could be worse or better than some people, whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, I completely lost my train of thought, man. But yeah, like you get to that point that I because I was able to do my amends and go through this process,
Mm-hmm.
I could find that forgiveness from my parents that they were doing the best that they could too.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
made my own decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right, because, would it be nice if our parents came back? I did that for my kids. I let them have a chance to yell and scream at me, you know. And my daughter took it, but it helped because I took accountability for it. Now, are my parents going to take accountability? No, they're not. But at some point, you need to realize that nobody else gets to decide who you are. You are who you are because you've made that decision. So it was really hard for me, and I don't really particularly like it, but you have got to take responsibility for your own emotions, especially as men. No matter what somebody else has done, your emotions are still yours, and you have to learn how to work with them, not deal with them, not fight them, but to accept them for what they are and work with it.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think in this program that I am not on a pedestal, and I am not this guru floating. Honestly, it's just gotten me to a place that I'm like halfway to like what a normal per functioning
Yeah.
human being should
Balance.
look like. Like, and so it's just kind of brought me to that place that I can like sort of exist in the world and not be just total a wreck.
Yeah.
But yeah, what it's like now. Like we have two beautiful children, and my wife has only seen me for 3 years, a drunk, and thankfully,
God bless her heart. 3 years is a long freaking time to live with a drunk.
Right. And most of the time people would just leave at that point. So, she saw me through this, and she's been a very, very big supporter.
Yeah.
I
If it
finished
was, I don't know that I would have made it back if it wasn't for my wife.
Yeah. And I think that, like we talked about how we got in here, because we were done and we had nothing.
Sure.
But really, like you do it for other people too. Like you do it because you want to be in their lives.
Yeah.
If at some point.
Well, and I get why people say that you need to do it for yourself, and I agree. The thing is when I sobered up, I didn't love me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted me dead. I didn't think I deserved anything. So how am I going to use that information to get myself into getting some help? Okay.
Yeah.
Deep at my core, I don't like hurting other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was no longer willing to accept the consequences of what I was doing to other people anymore. I couldn't do that. And so I figured I needed to make a change.
And I think that's interesting, like, that you're saying that when you were sober, you still hate yourself. And I think that that's a common theme. Like for me,
Sure.
like things did not get better. Like I felt absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
like I have to mention that like my life was not sunshine and rainbows, like it, like that's when the real work starts. And like
is when you get into recovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sober just means you don't drink anymore. It's all it means.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the world are sober, but non-alcoholic. They don't need to do the extra work. We do if we want to have any chance at a decent life. See, you don't need to be drinking for your disease to progress. You just need not do anything about it.
Isn't that, it's just mind blowing that people can just like not drink, and not like want to kill themselves I don't know, like it's just like hats off to them for sure. But yeah, just like, I see people that do that, and you're just like, how do you not work a program? Like, that's the wildest thing. That's just for me. Like, I had to do it. So, but yeah, man. Dion, you're a spiritual gangster, man. I appreciate you spreading the word, doing the work, making it fun.
I've loved having you on. Do you have any words of wisdom? Any parting words?
Oof. The intuitive thought, action, decision, it's there. And it's always going to be there. And, that's what I'm trying to tap into, that spiritual alignment, day by day. And those are the things that they're brought into my life. And if I just pay attention, there will be more, and I'm so grateful for that at least, I'm aware. But just for folks to just keep optimistic and look out for those things. And it might not be right now, it might not be tomorrow, but it's going to be dropped in your lap.
It is. Great stuff. Thank you again for taking your time on a Saturday. Well, we had this planned while the kids were napping, so they'll probably wake up about now.
Yep.
But thank you so much for being on the show. I had a lot of fun talking with you, Rob.
I appreciate you.
I look forward to a good long friendship with you.
Hell yeah, trudging the road. What is that? Walk with purpose.
Yeah, and trudge that happy road of destiny.
Much love, man.
Parting words for my audience. This should be encouraging for a lot of young people out there. And I certainly do encourage young people to give it a try. The first time I got sober, I was 18 years old. I was living on Skid Row. I certainly qualified as a hopeless drunk. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I love you all. I do. Peace out.
All right, brother.
And have a day.
Thank you.